Can you tell me the story of the raw bacon while we check our audio levels?
So I didn't know what to use to cook the bacon in, so I thought, you know what? I kind of want some like rice with bacon, like. So I cut up bacon, and then I threw it into the rice and threw it into the microwave for 3 minutes. And 3 minutes wasn't long enough, and bacon was still very raw.
Oh my!
And I mixed some mustard and stuff into it.
Oh, I didn't know that you did that.
Yeah, and I did not feel well for a couple hours after eating it, but no problems. I'm alive. Didn't get too sick.
Not too sick. Oh my goodness! Because there is bacon that you can just throw in the microwave.
Yeah.
So I get it. I'm 100% on board.
Normally, you have a bacon tray though for specifically to cook in the microwave.
For specifically bacon that's been pre-cooked.
No, you could actually put raw bacon in the microwave, and they have trays for it. It actually stands them up and stuff.
So maybe I was closed-minded because I didn't know that they had bacon trays.
Yeah, and that's what I always used at my parents'.
Okay.
But it didn't work inside the rice. It didn't work.
Maybe the rice was a big part of it.
Possibly.
The rice and the fact that it was inside the bowl?
Could be.
I don't know. Well, unfortunately, the bacon was still raw. Fortunately, you're alive.
Yeah, it would take a lot to kill me.
I think that's a good segue as to who me is. Would you like to introduce yourself first?
I'm Joseph Garrison, and yeah, that's me.
And I'm Rex Waide, and this is the Devil Said Please podcast.
Yes, it is.
With Joseph Garrison and Rex Owen Waide. So maybe we should illuminate what this phrase means, because I don't think most people know what that means. The devil said please.
Well, to me, the meaning behind it was that. So, let's see. Well, for me personally, I feel like, to me, the devil did say please in a way that there has been a lot of misunderstandings when it comes to the devil or our idea of the devil, and that a lot of those misunderstandings has made the devil out to be a lot worse than the devil that I know. And I feel like at some point she did ask to please help in changing people's opinion of her.
So from your perspective, the devil is a she. And
yes, and the devil is actually Gaia, the earth, and, well, as Satan and Gaia are one and the same, and all of the shit that's happened across the world, a bunch of it has been karma related, and Gaia has suffered because of it. And so I feel like the devil said please is the earth is saying please help make things better for the world. And that's what it meant to me when you brought up the name, and that's what I got to it, because I know Satan and Gaia to be one and the same, and they are Tiamat, and she's whole now, and it meant that's what it means. That's what it meant to me.
The devil said, please.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. You're very big on channeling, and I think that for me, channeling comes through when I meditate, and when I do what I like to call an active meditation. I do both active and passive meditation, but lately it's been more active in that as I'm running or biking, I don't listen to music. I don't. I try not to have anything external going into my brain, into my heart, into myself, so that all of the thoughts and feelings that arise during my run, my bike ride, whatever, they're things that either are spawned from my past, my memories, or my anxieties of the future, or the things that are happening presently. You know, the trees moving around me, the bobcats, you know, holding rats in its jowls as it's, you know, crossing the line at River Legacy Park. But I think a lot of the time, a lot of my thoughts and a lot of my energies are influenced from, for lack of a better phrase, internally external things, like spiritual things. You know, I'm very much in alignment with you that there are energies, there are dimensions around us that do exist, and they're not necessarily present in the visual sense or physical sense, but we do feed off of them. We do absorb those energies, and they come into us. And that popped into my head because we had done a couple short trial episodes, if you will, that will remain unheard. But yeah, we were trying to think of the name for a potential podcast, and that just popped out. As far as what it means to me, I don't know. I like to think that I not that I like to think. I understand your perspective that the devil is, you know, reaping some kind of karma. That's kind of what you're saying, right? That
was, but that time is now over, and Gaia, in all of her beauty, the devil, is getting to ascend along with all of us, and it's happening sooner rather than later. We're actually from what I have channeled, from what I know, and from what I feel, it's going to be the end of the world as we know it. Things are going to be changing pretty rapidly, pretty quick, pretty soon. Within the next couple of months, there's going to be some big changes going on.
You don't necessarily mean the destruction of the physical world.
No, I don't. I do feel like there's going to be some structures that are going to be broken down, political, economic. A lot of the way of living that we've known for a very long time, those are going to break down, but the new way of life is going to be a thing of beauty, and it's going to be I'm talking free energy, free healthcare, free housing for everyone. It's going to be a new earth. It's going to be like the apocalypse is not what the Bible has made it out to be. It's going to be, think of it as like a shedding of skin, sort of, so to speak. It has there's going to be some growing pains, but in the end, we're going to come out, and it's going to be better than anything we've known.
And that's such an optimistic idea, and it immediately makes me think of Thomas More's Utopia, and the big joke of the utopia being that utopia means no place. I don't know. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that has in store for anybody, for myself. I do remember that in 2012, when everybody was the Mayan calendar is going to end on December 23rd. And people thought that we were legit going to burn up into a ball of fire. And I had been reading this book, Fingerprints of the Gods by Graham Hancock. And he talked a lot about the Mayan calendar, synchronizing with a lot of Egyptian calendars and astrological calendars, alignments of planets and new rotations of the earth. There's this thing called a procession of the earth, and all of these really abstract things, not even abstract, but obscure ideas. And man, I was ready for something. I was like, all right, this is like Y2K all over again. And I legit thought, I'm not going to go to work anymore. We're all going to burn up into a ball of flames. I didn't know what to expect. But nothing happened. December 23rd happened. But what did happen, now this was in 2012, all right? What did happen is I personally endured an apocalypse as Rex Waide. You know, starting in 2012, I started to dabble in some parts of the world and parts of my own psyche that I hadn't really ever opened before. And it could have been a culmination of external forces as well as internal things, you know, like everything as above, so below. But my experience with 2012 is, man, from 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015, even a little bit of 2016, drug years. I was so lost in a blitzkrieg of what the fuck is this about? What is going on with my life? Like a legit apocalypse that thankfully I was able to get through. And I'll segue into this because in 2010, I took a handful of mushrooms. Now, I was not very experienced in mushrooms, but I was already very aware of this 2012 prophecy, quote unquote prophecy that people had talked about, right? So back in 2010, man, I really wasn't, I was what, 19, 20, I was 21. And I wasn't really maturing. I was kind of like, I had a job, but it wasn't going anywhere. Like, what was I doing with it? I didn't know what I was doing. I was 21. Of course you don't know what you're doing. You're 21. So I just took this handful of mushrooms, not understanding the impact that a mushroom would have. And I thought it was just recreational, like weed, because I've been smoking weed for many, many years prior to this. So I just took a handful of mushrooms. I drank a couple beers, smoked some weed. Yeah, man, I'm going to party. Whoa. I went on a totally different journey. I even remember like laying on my bed, almost like in a fever state. Like, what the fuck is happening to me? I didn't think it was going to be like this. And then I was in this other place. I wasn't asleep and I definitely wasn't awake. But all I remember is having a vision. And I don't mean vision as like the visual vision of something, but I mean like a feeling more than anything. But the way I can explain it is aliens communicated with me during my mushroom trip.
I believe it.
I believe it too. They communicated with me. And they didn't use words. They didn't use any kind of like vocal language. They used just a knowing. You know, you call it your downloads. It was just a knowing of something. All of a sudden I knew 2012 is real. You need to prepare yourself. I didn't know what the fuck that meant. And I had just seen the movie 2012 with John Cusack and the world's ending and astrology and you got to save the world and blah, blah. So, man, I put all these weird connections in my brain that I wasn't really fully understanding. And I woke up the next day, a little mushroom hungover, if there's such a thing. And I was terrified. I went to the library in my state of fear, and I got multiple books. I got a book on mathematics because I told myself I have to learn the language of the universe, and that's mathematics. You know, patterns, tendencies, stuff like that. I have to learn how to treat my body and get my body ready. You know, I don't have to be a warrior or a soldier, but I need to be ready. So I got a book on yoga. I got a book on botany, you know, how to grow plants, how to prepare for, I'm going to have to be a harvester, you know. I'm going to have to learn how to grow my own crops at some point because the world's going to end. I legit believed this. So for 2 years, maybe a little over 2 years, I every day had like a plan. All right, I'm gonna go for a walk in the mountains, and I took my dog with me, and we walked in the mountains for hours and hours, training our body. We'd go do yoga. I started digging a compost pit in my backyard. I started to do math. I would do at least 2 or 3 hours of math all night. I stopped watching TV back then. I was addicted to TV. I'm still addicted to TV. But I stopped watching TV and I just focused all my energy on math. I put on some music, and I would, just like in high school, I'd, go to the back of the book, and problems, all the odd problems, I just work through everything. I worked through algebra, pre-algebra, algebra 2, geometry. I worked through trigonometry. I worked through calculuses 1 and 2. And a lot of it I remembered from high school. A lot of it was still kind of new to me. Calculus 2 was very, very new to me. And my main goal, the main thing that the aliens told me is the answer to consciousness is a mathematical equation. I don't know what the fuck that meant, but I was on a pursuit to find that mathematical equation. And very lucky for me, in 2012, I had this apocalypse. I got involved with the wrong things. I messed up as a kid. Of course I did. I was 23. I didn't know any better. And I went through a physical, emotional, intellectual, financial apocalypse. And the only thing that really saved me, looking back on it, is I was ready. Like for years, I had been accumulating knowledge and physical abilities that when time came, I may not have won the war, but I did not lose the war either. I was able to come out a survivor.
Right.
And then 2015 happened, and I started to dig my way out of the hole. So I guess that to me is the devil. To me, the devil is more metaphorical in that it's this negative thing, this thing inside your brain, or these, negative aspects of life that are trying to trick you, to confuse you, to manipulate you, trying to make you lazier, dumber, less conscious of what you're doing. Go ahead, drink that Red Bull. Go ahead, drink a 5-hour energy drink at 10 o'clock at night. And I used to do that. Go ahead, get 2 honey buns and eat them in the morning before you go to work. Not good for you. And I would do that shit. That's the devil trying to influence you to do things that are not good for you, but are simple pleasures. And that's how the devil gets you. And we'll talk about that perhaps in another episode. The difference between high pleasures and low pleasures. I'm going to write that down. Or you can write it down. You don't have to write it down. I can write it down. I don't have my book with me. But yeah, that's the devil. The devil said, please. Because the devil comes to you. What is that quote? The devil comes to you in... Basically, the devil comes to you in sheep's clothing, but it's really a wolf in sheep's clothing, It's just pretending to be meek and passive and calm and soft and sensitive. And then, bam! The devil will get you, Kind of like that Flannery O'Connor story. A good man is hard to find, or something like that, right? The good men in the story are wearing smiles and bright new suits, cleanly shaven. They're the killers you have to watch out for, the devils. So that's a little bit of me and where I'm coming from. What do you want from this podcast, Joe?
Well, 2012 it's come and gone. There has been new findings that there were about 8 years off of the Mayan calendar, that 2020 is actually the 2012 that was predicted. So there's that. I just, from what I've been reading and from what I've gathered, is with the new way of life that is supposedly coming, there's going to be a lot of people who need healing and to go through. I don't know. It's a good question.
People are going to be falling all around us. They're not going to. Their sense of the world is going to be completely flipped on their head, dude.
Yeah, I know. And there's going to be a lot of fallout, and I want to be one of the ones that helps people come to terms with it and to heal where they need healing in the spirit, in the soul, whatever have you. And I just want to help see this through with my guides and just continue doing good.
I think that's beautiful. Yeah. And I think that's what people need. You're trying to be a shepherd.
Yeah, I'm trying to be a light worker in times that seem really dark. There's a lot of fear and a lot of uncertainty when it comes to the world right now. But I do feel like that's just part of the process of, and I do feel like a lot of it is because there has been some dark forces that have had control over the world for an extended period of time. But I do feel like they've lost their grip, and I think a lot of what we've seen in 2020 is the result of them losing their grip. And 2021, I think, is going to be, well, there's supposed to be a big event December 21st this year. And then that coincides with not only planets aligning, but also the winter solstice. And the new age of Aquarius as well. So everything's coinciding to this date on December 21st. 2020. And part of what I've gathered is going to be happening is portals are going to be opening, and we're going to get a lot of extra dimensional help, whether it be from the angelic realm or aliens or ascended masters like Jesus coming back, just a bunch of help to bring in a new way of life for us, to teach us, to bring more peace and harmony and help us through the chaos that is undoubtedly going to be all over the place at that point in time. So I'm planning a trip. Well, I'm supposed to be going on a trip to Egypt to help with this here within the next month. And yeah, I'm looking forward to that and seeing what all happens with that. And then December comes around and we'll see what happens there. But yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of what's going to be perceived as negative things happening, but I think it's leading into a lot of positive. And I'm going to maintain that optimism because of just a bunch of the things that I've gone through the last few months. I've gone through a bit of a spiritual awakening of sorts and have come into contact with a bunch of different, I would call them extra dimensional beings of all shapes and sizes.
That leads me to an interesting question. So there were three things that you touched on. But before I want to ask you those three things, I'm going to say them real fast.
Okay.
You talked about the books you're reading. You talked about your plan on going to Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
And your guides.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So my intention in this podcast is to give us a platform to show others a way, to almost like a star in the sky, like a beacon that people can follow. People are confused. If we're not out there saying something to people, then they're never going to find us. But if we're out there, yeah, people are going to probably call us crazy. Well, I've been called worse, but at least the people who actually this would mean something to will be there for them. You know,
Right.
And I think my entire life I've been confused about my identity, but it's become very clear lately to me. And as I look back reflectively, it's been clear this whole time. I'm a teacher. You know, I used to like to fancy myself as a philosopher king. I also like to fancy myself as a warrior prince, but I'm a teacher. You know, and I have to give myself to others. Not to say I know everything, because I don't, but at least I can point the way, or maybe in your terms, I can channel something that people will need to hear. You know, and that's a lot of what I used to do when I used to be a substitute teacher at the high schools. Shout out to Timberview High School and those fucking kids, if you're listening. Hell yeah. But you know, I would just go to class, and quite honestly, sometimes I would just throw the, teachers leave for the day and they leave busy work for the kids. I would just throw that off to the side, whatever. And I would just talk to them, and sometimes I would say things that would get me in trouble a lot of the time. But a lot of the time, those same things I would say that got me in trouble would also be the things that some of those kids needed to hear.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I said them. I was just in the moment, So I'm a teacher. And if I can lend anything through this platform, it's to teach others, to guide others, to give something to them to hold on to if they find us and if they need us. And if they don't, then that's okay too.
Yeah, and that's very much my thought process going into this as well. Just teaching people to, I don't know, access their higher selves, so to speak, to follow their heart, to deal with their karmic traumas.
That's a big one. I like that.
To integrate the darkness. That's something that if you're ignoring aspects of yourself, then it kind of limits the amount of growth you can do.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of people have a hard time facing the darker aspects of themselves, or understanding their karmic traumas. And I do feel like I've learned to integrate and incorporate a lot of that in my own life and come to terms with them. And I feel like I did find peace. A lot of that started when I was started balancing my chakras, getting into chakra meditation, and from there it just kind of snowballed.
Absolutely. And that's definitely an episode that we're going to have in the future, where we kind of use Carl Jung's collection of essays, the book known as Man and His Symbols.
Yeah, I was looking through it recently, and a lot of that stuff really was things that I had experienced, with things that I had things I have been reading about, or things I have been going through personally as well. So I do want to touch on Carl Jung, and I do want to continue looking into that book more. So
it's a great book, man. I mean, he just gives the introduction, and then he has a lot of his researchers, the people who worked with him, do a lot of the essays, and there's a lot to touch on. Like you kind of broached the subject of karmic trauma. There's self-individuation, past life trauma, present life trauma. And really, that's what Jung really tried to stress, is this integration of self into being able to reach this higher self, capital S self, that quite honestly, man, most people never achieve. I don't think I'm ever going to achieve it. Capital S self, the truest sense, purest sense of self, it's almost impossible. And very fewer people even attempt to go there. It's very hard to look in the mirror, and it takes a lot of courage and honesty, and quite honesty, just fucking grit to say, this is who I am, and it is or it isn't in alignment with my true self. But that's a subject for another day. That does segue into the books you're reading. So you talked about the books you're reading. What kind of books are you reading about this stuff?
I'm not necessarily reading books. I'm reading a lot of messages that other channelers are getting, and a lot of the information that I get are not necessarily from books, but from not documentaries, but a lot of videos I've been watching. Just more and more information about the hidden histories of the world. Look, a lot of the ancient civilizations. You were talking about their calendars earlier. A lot of prophecies. A lot of just a lot of things that are coinciding with what we're seeing in this day and age.
There's a lot of material that you've been researching.
Yeah, it's been from a bunch of different things. There have been some books though. Opening the channel and reading the Akashic records. Those two books were played a big part in my spiritual growth and coming into contact with these guides, and figuring out my karmic and past life traumas because of who they were and what they went through. I have 12 other past lives that all died and whose mother outlived all of them.
Wow.
And here I am, number 13, where I'm still alive, and I actually did have like an awakening of sorts. The others didn't get that far. From what I found when I did my Akashic records and learning more about not who I am, but who I have been in the past, in different parallels, if you will.
That's an interesting point that maybe we can have a full episode on too, is the Akashic records, because you've done a lot of research and a lot of active movement, spiritual movement as well as physical movement, into studying this stuff and really diving in to
I dove head in, and I ended up in behavioral health a little bit.
Well, that's definitely going to be in that episode, and I really want to. Maybe we should write that down, the Akashic records, because I agree from the things you've expressed what the Akashic records mean and the idea of past life regression and all this. But I also believe I'm very much a little bit more practical, like an Aristotelian practicality of the present life. And I think that all of these ideas abstractly can be applied to our present lifetime, right? So if you're talking about past life regression, it's more of an idea of reflection on the self, because I mean, a lot of who we are today, everything of what we are today, has a lot to do with where we've come from. So the Akashic Records, that's definitely something that people should check out. Some of the Of Men and Symbols is a book that I've really gotten into a while back ago. I was reading a lot of Sigmund Freud, specifically, what is the book? The Interpretation of Dreams. That's
Dream interpretation is good too.
Now, so I would really like you to read that one a little bit.
Okay.
That one it's dense as fuck. I'll be honest. It's dense and it's dry, but it really does bring a lot of information to light, especially if you're interested in these more mystical / psychology concepts. It does kind of do an interesting job of merging these two together. Psychology, which is a real world thing. People have done a lot of research and current research even into psychology. And then this mysticism that you can't really research mysticism. It's just kind of part of this knowing. It's just kind of part of this collective consciousness. And that's really where Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung kind of branched off, is that era of mysticism and psychology. And Jung went a little bit more mysticism. Freud went a little bit more psychology mixed with mysticism, and that's where that book came from. But man, I used to research a lot of psychology books. Abnormal psychology was one of the things I was really into. I even have a video on YouTube about schizophrenia, because I used to very much think I had schizophrenia. Like when I was doing hardcore drugs, especially well, we're not going to get into what drugs, unless we have some, then we'll get into them. But man, I got into some really heavy psychedelics for a long time. And that opened a lot of channels in the brain, very much to stir of echoes. Tell me.
What I found schizophrenia to be is you actually accessing your higher selves, your past lives, and accessing the Akashic field around you, and letting these channels come in and take over for periods of time, but most people don't know this or realize it. And they get treated for schizophrenia. Not knowing that there are ways in a spiritual sense to actually make sense of what they're going through, and to actually gain control over those things. Because recently I was my mother was thinking that I was schizophrenic because of what I was going through with the channeling and stuff, which is by definition would, I guess, be considered schizophrenia. But I was able to overcome it and kind of integrate it into my life.
And that's such a strange thing, isn't it? Yeah. I legit thought I was, and I did so much research. I was that guy that would go to the library and have a full backpack, empty out the backpack of all the books, and then just stuff more books in them and leave, carrying this big bag. I did a lot of research into what schizophrenia was. I even have a really old book. Schizophrenia used to actually be called dementia praecox. This was 19th century terminology, and I have that book in the bookshelf if you're interested in. But yeah, man, we can definitely talk about schizophrenia. We can talk about all these things that we research, all these books that we've kind of come into contact with, all the research that we've done individually and together, things we're going to talk about. We're definitely going to talk about the guides. If you want to give a brief overview of what the guides are.
So over the last few months, I first knew something was trying to make contact with me. There was an audible knock on my window, nobody there. At first I was afraid. I
would be afraid. Fuck that.
Yeah, but I felt like something was trying to contact me, so I purposely went and got some shrooms.
Oh my God, I'm terrified of what's not there. So let me just get some shrooms.
To help make contact, to open up the pineal gland to help me connect on in a better sense. And you actually played a part in this.
What? I don't blame me, fucker.
No, so I actually went out and something made contact with me. I was in contact with this extra dimensional being, who I found out's name was Orin. And when I was with this being, light being of sorts, I got a text here from Rex saying I am the alien, and I was like, "What?" That threw me off because I was right in the middle of contact with whatever this was, and out of nowhere I get this text. So I do feel like the universe was channeling through Rex at the time, and a couple of my guides I found out are my guardian angels, and that was Raphael and Lucifer. And there's been a lot of misconceptions about Lucifer as well. But I have learned a lot about guardian angels and how you can. That's another day.
Guides and guardian angels, episode such and such.
And then Gaia was the other guide that came in, and she went by Gaia at the time, but since then she has become whole, and she is Tiamat. She would be the mother of creation. She was the first. She is the one you would know as the all-knowing, all-seeing deity in a sense, but she is the universal consciousness personified, and Tiamat is one aspect of that universal consciousness, and she's very much a part of my day-to-day life now. I wake up, she's with me. I go to sleep, she's with me. She's with me at all times. And there have been others that have come in. Thaw, he's one of my guides as well, and he's the leader of the Watchers here on Earth, and he's been here for a very long time, waiting for this ascension, basically. And he's very much, everybody's on the same page now. They weren't always on the same page, and there were different factions of these extra dimensional beings, but everybody is on the same page now, and everything is falling into place for everything to work out for everybody.
And everybody has a guide, right? And that's
yeah. There's all sorts of guides. I have a book of angels and guides. There's over 200 different guides you could call it. Jesus is in there as well. I have contacted Yeshua, or Jesus, if you will, and I've communed with him. I've communed with a bunch of ascended masters and deities. They're all here to help, and the veil is very thin now, and there's a lot more people making contact than you would believe. And from what I've found, I'm involved in multiple networks of people who have been getting contacted, not only from these guides, but from I guess you would call them extraterrestrials, is what you would think of as extraterrestrials as well. But the Pleiadians and Arcturians, there's a lot of different channels that are out there that are helping people.
Yeah, and maybe we can help people find theirs so they can live their life to the fullest and find their capital S self. And
yeah, like yourself, I was able to channel and figure out your guardian angels are Michael and Zaphael, and they're very much ready and willing to and eager to be a part of your life.
I just hope they help me get a Kimura tomorrow. No, I have to do it all by myself. But yeah, so that's that in a nutshell, a very large but dense nutshell. That's the Devil Said Please podcast, right? That's kind of what we're leaning into, and that doesn't necessarily mean I don't want anyone to get the interpretation that we're like some what is it, like Luciferian podcast where like the devil worshippers or something, and Anton LaVey is really sitting next to us in the form of like a cloak and dagger or something. But these are all mystical and metaphorical terms that will help illuminate truth, capital T truth, right? And that's really what we're trying to do. So over the different spectrums and the different disciplines of thought and philosophy and academia and just life experience in general. And I think that's what both of us can really lend other people is life experience. We've been through a lot of shit, just like a lot of other people have been through a lot of shit. Yeah. And I think if we put our stories out there and what we know, what we've learned upon our reflections and our studies, then other people will learn something either about themselves or other people or whatever may come of it. But I guess this is a way to sound off on our first episode of The Devil Said Please.
Yeah. You all have a wonderful rest of your day.
Joseph, put your pants on. God damn it.
Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you.